oftentimes with recreational clients or more elite clients, there can be some hesitation with taking creatine with female athletes. Could you give us a few reasons or things that you've come across and that hesitation of wanting to add that into their supplemental repertoire?
Yeah. So the two biggest things, and they kind of go hand in hand, is either it'll make me bulky, or it'll make me get large muscles, bulky muscles, or it'll make me gain weight. So to address the first one, creatine on itself, remember, it's just think of it, as a precursor to energy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not doing anything, if you're just kind of sitting on the couch and you're not lifting any weights, so you're not going to the gym and you're not creating the stimulus to increase muscle size, you're not going to put on muscle mass. It's not to be confused with an anabolic steroid like testosterone, where you're going to increase muscle mass regardless of the stimulus, regardless of the training that you're doing. So creatine on its own won't make you bulky. And even so, the studies that have looked at creatine when used with resistance training, both in untrained and trained individuals, you're not going to find increases in muscle mass that are off the charts. You might find something 2 to 3 kilograms or 5 pounds of muscle mass over a 10-week or 12-week training program. That's a lot of time of consistently lifting weights, and a lot of that's the actual resistance training program. The creatine is there as the stimulus to allow you to engage in a high enough training intensity or a high enough training level to have those changes. So if you're doing lighter volume, lighter resistance, if you're not doing a resistance training program that otherwise wouldn't induce great changes in muscle size or strength, creatine won't somehow magically create those changes in the absence of having that sort of stimulus. So the whole idea that it's on its own can make you bulky is not true. Just briefly explain what I mean by loading protocols. When we supplement with creatine, we typically have 2 different protocols. One is a loading protocol, which is taking 20 grams a day, broken down into 4 5-gram doses throughout the day, which would equal 20 grams. And you do that for 5 to 7 days. That protocol, which has been shown to maximally saturate your creatine stores within a week, has been shown to lead to about 2 to 3 kilograms, or about, on the maximum side, about 4 to 5 pounds of water weight gain in that week. And that's more prevalent in males than females. However, that does taper back down in the following weeks, because that's just water weight. You're not gaining fat. You're not gaining muscle in a week. Unfortunately,
it would be great, wouldn't it?
On 5 pounds of muscle in a week. That's just water weight. So you can feel a little bit bloated, or some people may claim that they feel a little bit bloated. If you want to counteract that, what I tell people is to do a low dose protocol. And it's what I actually recommend most people do, unless they are in a situation where they need to maximally increase creatine stores in a week, if that's because they're competing or they have an event where in a week where they really want to have stores of creatine saturated. If you're not in any rush, if you're taking it for a day-to-day purpose, we typically say anywhere from 3 to 5 grams, more so based on body weight. If you're lighter body weight, probably 3 grams. 70 kilos, or I always try to off the top of my head convert to pounds, because I know that some people are pounds and kilograms, but I would say 70 kilos or about 150 pounds.
Chris,
Absolutely. So this kind of started in my early work, as I mentioned previously, with my thesis, or my master's thesis was looking at creatine and interval training, or high intensity interval training, and its effects on improving some aerobic measures. And we've seen since then, and I'm not the only person who's looked at that, it's been looked at in other areas, but we know that endurance athletes will often have different forms of training. They don't always do long, continuous, steady state type training. They often do will have a component of interval or fartlek or non-steady state sort of training, where their body will be more reliant on anaerobic energy systems. And anytime we start to work at higher intensities, it is very much more likely that we will tap into ATP stores at a higher rate than that of which we can maintain through a steady state supply of oxygen. So therefore, that we start to deplete those energy stores like creatine. And so therefore, by supplementing with creatine and having increased stores, both before we start training, but also being able to replenish at a faster rate during training, being able to replenish ATP at a quicker rate during training, because we have more creatine and phosphocreatine in our body, in our muscles, we're able to maintain higher intensities and recover faster during things like interval training. So during workouts, we've seen that we're able to complete more work bouts, but also complete them at a higher intensity. Also beneficial for endurance athletes is on the recovery side of things. So we know that taking creatine with carbohydrates can actually help to resynthesize or restore glycogen levels at a faster rate. And we know through numerous papers and research studies that have been done, for the past decades, that the more glycogen we have in our muscles before we start any form of endurance activity, the longer we'll be able to maintain that activity and at a higher intensity. Right? It's thinking about, it's like, you've got fuel in your car. If your tank is full, you're going to be able to go longer or drive further in your car than if your tank was half full. It's pretty common sense. The same thing with carbohydrates and muscle glycogen. So glycogen is just stored carbohydrates in your body. So the more glycogen you have before you start activity, before you start exercise in your body, the longer you're going to be able to maintain intensity and maintain your exercise level, compared to someone who doesn't have as much glycogen or carbohydrates available. And we know that creatine can assist with that.